Venu pour comment suivre nos public hearing FPAC pour aujourd'hui bon matin. Pareil, autres va rappeler. Juste pour faire un petit recap, FPAC peut faire son travail en relation avec le rapport auditeur général 2023. Et nous pouvons écrire différentes entités qui trouvent dans ce rapport et pour demander certaines questions vis-à-vis financement, dépenses. En ce qui concerne les entités, as identified, mais identifié par rapport au auditeur général. Pour commencer, moi vais juste donner un brief l'introduction de FPAC pour que le monde public est capable de comprendre à cause nous besoin de faire ce travail. So FPAC lui-même, il a créé en bas constitution et il a encadré en bas standing ordre des assemblées nationales et son rôle c'est pour regarder tout bon compte qui gagne refer de l'article 158.3 nos constitutions en relation avec rapport auditeur général et rapport avec l'Assemblée, aucune dépense qui est fait en excès ou bien aucune des autres mesures qui besoin de faire en relation avec les dépenses qui trouvées en bas. Ça bon compte qui tombe à l'article 158.3. Pour faire ce travail, FPAC, il prédominamment fait des public hearings avec une entité. Et aujourd'hui, devant nous, nous prenons la Seychelles Revenue Commission. Avant moi d'introduire Seychelles Revenue Commission, on va juste introduire les gens qui sont présents avec nous aujourd'hui bon matin. Avec nous aujourd'hui bon matin, nous avons dans notre présence avec nous auditeur général, M. Gamini Herat, et nous avons aussi audit manager, Mme Hilary Lorette, qui est présent avec nous. Nous avons assisté à travers l'Assemblée nationale, par député Clark l'Assemblée nationale, Mme Mamzil, Alexandria Fort. Nous avons Ms. Sherry Rangasamy, et Miss Saviona Isaac, qui est avec nous aussi pour... Saviona Piram, qui est avec nous aujourd'hui bon matin. Assemblée sans de temps en temps, qui sont besoin de équipe truck avec bon nom. Et nous avons aussi présence Mme Ruth Fanchette avec nous, qui est aussi un auditeur. Nous avons assisté le côté technique avec M. Jolene Siméon et son équipe. Et l'équipe de l'Assemblée nationale qui peut nous diffuser sa session aujourd'hui bon matin. Tu vas remarquer, mon introduit tout le restant du monde avant introduit l'Assemblée. À cause de tout le monde l'Assemblée, il a à cause de tout ça du monde qui l'a en dedans. FPAC lui-même est composé de 7 membres. Aujourd'hui bon matin, nous avons 6 membres qui sont présents. Il y en a moi-même, mon Sébastien Pilé, chairperson. Là, mon côté droit, il y a honorable Georges Romain. On a honorable Churchill Gill. On a honorable Conrad Gabriel, de mon côté gauche. Honorable Sandy Harrisol et honorable Richard Labos. Bon, avant nous commencer, je vous demande aux officiers SRC pour débuter et pour nous administrer the oath of truth et Ms. Rangasamy qui pour faire ça. Merci.
I do swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Merci beaucoup, Zouk Kabassizé. Ça aussi, qui est représenté aujourd'hui bon matin par son commissionnaire général, Mme Vasha Singh. Il y en a M. Paul Barak, qui est commissionnaire custom. Et Mme Cindy Blackmore, qui est directeur Inland Revenue. Et Mme Bettina Denny, qui est manager Internal Audit dans SRC. Peut-être avant nous procéder, ça est quelque chose qui n'a pas rien pour faire avec FPAC. Moi, je suis content. Félicite l'équipe CC dans Ha Beach Soccer. Mon père dit mon la voix. Malheureusement, ils ont constaté pour dire mon PC, mon mieux, pour capable faire ça. Nous accomplir notre travail bon matin, mais mon quoi, mon trop crié. Pendant ça, banzou qui c'est Céline Zoué, mais mon félicite nous banzoué, les autres coachs, les autres management, et mon souhaite tous les bons. Nous une petite équipe, nous faisons face contre banzé, quand ban pays, il y a millions de monde, mais nous pas, nous n'avons la hauteur, mon quoi. Nous pas déployer nos pays, alors mon quoi, ça qui reste là, c'est pour nous build ça qui nous fait aujourd'hui. Pour bénéfice travail que nous besoin faire bon matin et l'effet qui Mme Vasha Singh, sorry, il cause anglais, nous pour switch en anglais présent pour nous continuer la reste nous hearing. Mrs. Singh, as we proceed, you will have the floor and then you will alert me as to which officer is taking the floor. To help the public, I would ask the officer who takes the floor to explain a little bit before you answer any question, to explain who you are, what your role is at SRC, and then answer the question that Mrs. Singh has assigned you to answer. Without further ado, then we will start with the hearing proper. I am aware that you've been informed of the questions that are coming your way, as should be the practice of all Finance and Public Accounts Committees. And therefore, we'll start directly with page 71 to 72, paragraphs 4 to 6, which relates to inconsistencies in the documents submitted for Bill of Entry assessment. So the question here, a very simple question, is what is the status of the investigation of this case, as was reported in the Auditor General's report? And for the public, there was an audit recommendation that there should be an investigation on a reported case whereby there were inconsistencies in the documents submitted for Bill of Entry assessment. And audit had noted that all the invoices in support of one Bill of Entry submitted for tax assessment were in the same format, although the invoices were from a different supplier, which itself proposes to be a breach of the rules as it exists currently. So, Mrs. Singh, could you tell us the status of this investigation? Thank you.
Bonjour, and good morning to the chairperson, the members of the committee, and all the SRC staff that are watching today. I wish to inform the committee that following the audit finding issued by the OEG, the matter was referred to the investigation unit for the appropriate action. The investigation is concluded, and the objective of the investigation was to determine whether the importer or the agent, as recommended by the OEG and as you have articulated, had indeed fabricated any of the documents. And in the course of the investigation, the relevant data from the internal system was cross-verified to assess any potential discrepancies. The findings from the investigation confirmed that all investigations originated from the overseas companies, the buyers, and accordingly no amendments would be needed on the Bill of Entry in question. It should be noted that the investigation unit applied the correct and the applicable valuation method that is under the World Trade Organization, the GATT agreement, whether the declared value was appropriate. It is important to emphasize that as a member of the WTO, Seychelles is obligated to comply with the relevant policies, rules, and procedures that are established under the WTO framework. The approach adopted by the Seychelles Revenue Commission is therefore in full compliance with these international obligations, and as I submit that there were no discrepancies found in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, Mrs. Singh. However, the question which begs itself is that in your original response, you did not mention that the bills were supposed to be in compliance, but the documents was in compliance with WTO regulations. What the SRC stated, and I will quote, in response, the Commission noted that this bill was classified green. So this is a different matter entirely as opposed to what you have just answered. What you answered, I do understand where you're coming from, and I appreciate you educating the committee and the public as to the role of SRC and the different regulations that you have to comply with, which should have been the response that should have been given initially, rather than stating that in response the Commission noted that this bill was classified green, indicating it was not initially selected for verification. What you're saying is that the bill was in line with conventions and regulations. That is not what is stated here. Mrs. Singh.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, the Bill of Entry, as we indicated, was routed to the green channel. So maybe I can just explain the clearance process.
No need to explain the clearance process.
Okay, so
what we are focusing on is that we have two different responses.
So the green, what it means is that when it is routed to green, that after the clearance process, there is still an opportunity for the post-clearance audit to actually conduct an audit. And that is the verification that the investigation team has conducted. I can also just indicate that the Bill of Entry was for 2023. The post-clearance audit would have looks at all green entries, and that happens post-clearance. So therefore, this was routed green, but when we verified, as I indicated, there was no discrepancies. However, just to ensure that SRC does look at all entries that are routed green.
Mr. Singh, I would like to take you back to paragraph 4 and the audit finding itself. Audit further noted that the invoices were without proper company logo, header, and lacked the necessary supplier information that would ideally be present on the supplier invoices from this particular country. This is the discrepancy that audit wanted to address. You, however, stated that the bill was routed green and therefore this was not verified. Now, if all other importers have to comply with that prerequisite, which is to provide the company logo and headers and supply information, why then was this one not in compliance with that regulation internally? I'm sure that every taxpayer out there would wonder, but why am I supposed to comply? Because our job, as I explained earlier, is to look at measures. NSRC is an important component of revenue collection for the government, and therefore we have to establish whether or not there is a lapse in the process, which I am quite sure there is not, given the expertise that SRC has and the people present here. I have no doubt as to your competence, but you have to clarify as to why the answer which you gave today was not the answer that was given then, given that it is quite clear that you had that information on hand.
So when we answered the Auditor General, we indicated that we will refer it to the investigation unit for the investigation unit to verify. And
hold on, just a minute, please. I understand that, but what you just answered seems to be information which SRC had already.
No. So can I just clarify
please,
that
thank
when we were, so as I explained, all green entries will be cleared and it is released. However, post-clearance, the post-clearance audit team will look at and verify all green entries. And this can be over a period of 3 to 4 years, because you don't want to go and do an audit annually on every importer. Now, when this was raised by the Auditor General, we looked at the entries. They are more than just, so there's a few documents that are verified, and that is the commercial invoice, the bill of lading, the purchase order, the sales contract, the payment proof, and the insurance certificate, as well as the freight documents. After the investigations team, post the OAG, as we indicated, we were going to have the investigations team verify this. They looked at all of this and they verified it and they found no discrepancies.
Okay. So I would like to take you to paragraph 6 of the report. And I would like to take you to the 3rd line. However, and I quote, following the audit observation, the Commission has verified invoices and acknowledged that there is a disparity. That is a response from SRC. You acknowledged that there was a disparity. Now you're telling me that there was no disparity. So which one am I to, how is it that SRC, which is doing this on a daily basis and deals with imports and supply, I believe that we import almost 80 to 90% of what we use in this country. You've been dealing with imports all this time. You could not give that answer to the Auditor General in relation to this issue, but stated that the Commission has verified invoices. It was the Commission that verified invoices, not the Auditor General in that context. The Auditor General flagged the anomaly, but the verification was done by SRC itself to state that there is a disparity in the invoices. So either there is, from my part, a concern within the internal process that exists, which you can reassure me that there is not, or this response was given in haste and did not consider the ramifications of the response when it was given. Commissioner.
So I think what I would like to say is that when you look at the invoice at face value, that is what you could see. However, following the investigation and calling for all the documents that I mentioned, which is in line with the valuation method 1. We verified all of that, and we found that there is no discrepancy. So post-clearance audit also and investigations would be able to call for more documents. And to give you comfort in terms of the clearance process and to ensure that we are ensuring that the values that are declared on import, SRC is also looking at introducing what is called the indicative value database, where goods of a similar nature will be able to be compared to other imported goods that have come in terms of history to ensure that the right value is being declared.
I do understand what you're saying. I am, however, concerned that should the Auditor General flag another anomaly, will the original response be the response which you gave to us, or will the original response be one similar to this one that we have received? Because in my opinion now, there is a discrepancy between the responses that the committee has and the responses that we are giving the public today. And I would like to clarify with you, did you write to the Auditor General and did you inform the Auditor General of the conclusions of that investigation? Have you done that?
No, we have not as
And
yet.
why have you not done that?
The investigations was just completed because we needed to get the overseas...
When was the investigation completed?
This month. April.
So the investigation was completed in April. At the same time, we were issuing summons for the FPAC.
Yes, this was only in November. We had written to the... it's difficult to get the information from the suppliers overseas. It takes quite a while, and that was the process we had to follow.
I do understand that, but I am just trying to look at the time frame. Within the same month that we issue summons for the FPAC, the investigation seems to have concluded. So therefore, I do not want to assume nor think that the investigation was concluded because SRC was coming before the FPAC.
No, I can assure you that we have put in measures to ensure that all green entries, firstly, will go through post-clearance audit. So this would have been picked up in the PCA if there was any discrepancies. Secondly, I'd like to also inform you that if there was when there is anything that the Auditor General finds, we do have a team that is working on this regularly, and we will submit the investigation report to the Auditor General as well.
When will the investigation report be submitted to the Auditor General?
We can submit it this week.
This week?
Yeah.
After coming to the FPAC?
We will submit it.
Thank you. Honorable Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. My question is, given that SRC responded that there was a discrepancy, and now we are being informed there was no discrepancies, what was how did SRC come up with the discrepancy results against no discrepancies? Have you been able to reconcile, and what was the issue that prompted as discrepancies? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. You can at any time refer the question or ask one of your team, one of the member of the panel, to respond if they have the information. Yes, and that would be.
So I will just indicate that the discrepancies that was raised when we did the investigation and called for all the documents and we cross-checked it, there were no discrepancies found after the investigation. So I I think that I want to just indicate that there was no fabrication as was originally thought in the invoices that were submitted. So there was no discrepancies in terms of that.
You don't want to add anything?
Do you want to add anything? Mr. Barak, you want to add? No.
No, that's it. Honorable Gill, you have a follow-up?
My follow-up is, I don't know if the person who written about the discrepancy is sitting on the panel now, but surely that person must have seen something that prompt him to indicate that there's a discrepancy. So as the committee, we would like to know what was checked that prompt the person to indicate that there was a discrepancy. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Do you want to respond?
Okay.
So hang on, who's going to answer? Mrs. Blakemore.
Blakemore.
Mrs. Blakemore, just when you do, just introduce what you do so that the public is in context of what you're going to answer. Thank you, Ms. Blakemore.
My name is Cindy Blakemore. I'm the Director for Inland Revenue, overseeing local manufacturer, all bonded warehouse, and also anything to do with concession and refund and recovery of debts. So like Mrs. Commissioner General has mentioned, prior when the audit conducted, they've observed it, okay? And then after they observed, whatever information that was discussed, we agree, yes. Over the document that was shown, there was a discrepancy. However, after that, we need to conduct an investigation upon the observation that the external auditor has observed. So the, like Commissioner General mentioned, the investigation conducted, and we needed to refer back to the supplier. The supplier is not in Seychelles, so we need to consult the supplier for them to provide additional information. And in the additional information that has been provided by the supplier indicated that the original information that was provided was correct. So for us, like again, CG has mentioned previously, there is also the component of checking the data for similar goods for us to compare if there has any goods being imported prior by a supplier to ensure that whatever information that has been provided by the importer is correct. So all this method has been conducted, and the results are shown that there were no discrepancy.
Thank you, Mrs. Blakemore. Mrs. Blakemore, the issue for us is one of a process issue that can lead to a discrepancy in how different importers are treated. Now, if your requirement is that any particular importer importing should have that information, we're not alleging any breach of any breach whatsoever. We're not alleging that there is any type of nefarious or illegal activity that's going on. But it raises a serious question as to your internal process to ensure that every person is treated in the same way. That is my problem. My problem is that you responded with all the know-how that you have, that there is a disparity. So unless there was no disparity, you wouldn't have given that response. That's what I can conclude, because your people have the experience and the tenure within the offices which they hold to understand these things in and out. So furthermore, you are the one who then stated that you agreed with the audit finding, basically. So the audit finding is not there to catch you out. The audit finding is to alert you as to a possible discrepancy that exists within your process, which you have to fix. Because what audit stated, it's clear, okay? It checked, there was only one bill of entry, right? What if audit had checked for others and found that the same thing existed? Would you have done an exercise for the others as well? So which means there is a lapse in the process which has to be addressed. And therefore, what we would like from you is for you to provide the results of that investigation to the Auditor General. Now, given that even though we have the power of the Supreme Court to compel the receipt of documents, however, documents in relation to a taxpayer is also protected by a statute, by law. Therefore, we would advise you, in context of whatever documents you provide, that the identification of any taxpayer is not made clear, in that we protect the taxpayer as all taxpayers should be protected as is required under law. So therefore, you will provide that information to the Auditor General, because we will have to come back and check the processes within the SRC, whether or not, I do not want to make that allegation, but whether or not there is favorable treatment given to one and not to another. But as Mrs. Blakemore has said, you treat every importer the same way. And I would want to believe what she's saying, and therefore we want to ensure that you are able to do it in that way. In that respect, we will move on to the next question, Commissioner. Now, this is in relation to paragraph, to page 72, 73, and in relation to paragraph 7 to 7.7. Here we're talking about follow-up of unpaid bills in Asikuda. And question that comes to mind here is, what is the overall position with regard to unpaid bills? If you can take us through that. Thank you. And as you answer the question, you have the follow-up questions for 7.1, 7.2, the status on the update as to a case of 250,000 rupees, and 2 cases being settled as part of a compromise agreement, and whether those payments are being ordered. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I will just give you the overall position, and then I will hand over to Mr. Barak, the Customs Commissioner, to answer the specific ones.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the overall position is that the SRC actively monitors and follows up on all outstanding amounts to...
Commissioner, the question is in relation to the 250,000 rupees.
Okay.
Overall position on the unpaid bills. So we want to know, have the unpaid bills been settled?
Yes, so I'm going to give that to Mr.
I know,
Barak.
because
Okay.
I know we are conscious of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And
So-
giving me an explanation as to the process, we do understand. The Auditor General has already assessed the process, and it has found the anomaly. So I would like us to focus on the answer that has to be given in relation to unpaid bills. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So all of the bills of entries in question, we have looked at it, and I will hand over to Mr. Barak to give you the details in terms of each bill of entry.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Barak. You have the floor.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you, CG. My name is Paul Barak, the Commissioner of Customs. My overall responsibility is to oversee the administration and management of the Customs Division. To answer your question with regards to the debt of 250,000, it started as an original debt of 750, and the client paid 500, and the remaining balance is 250. We've liaised with the client, and we are negotiating to have the remaining 250,000 rupees to be paid. And this matter is ongoing. We sought advice from the Attorney General's office prior to liaising with the client to see what our legal position would be. And following the advice, we are pursuing our negotiation with the client to have the amount paid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barak. Now, Commissioner, what the auditor stated, and I quote paragraph 7.1, okay, in 8 cases, unpaid bills totaling 1.3 million rupees were either fully or partially settled, with total payments made at 30/09/2024, totaling 1,096,704 rupees, 0.51. In 4 cases, the debts were fully settled by the consignees, and included 2 cases whereby consignees simply agreed to settle the outstanding debts, and in the other 2 cases, the unpaid amount totaling 919,426 was reduced to 112,404. Can you clarify as to the reduction from 919,426 to 112,404? So how does a bill go from 919,426, a debt go from 919,426 rupees to 212,404 rupees? How does it get revised to that?
Bettina, Ms. Dennis will take you through that.
Thank you. And so this will be Mrs. Betty Nadini, Manager Internal Audit, right? Mrs. Denny, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Betty Nadini, and I am the Manager of Internal Audit. you asking questions with regards to the revised, the debt that was revised, right?
Yeah, the debt that was revised. So according to the Auditor General, to quote again, two cases, the unpaid amount totaling 919,426 was reduced to 112,404 due to a revised tax assessment. So we would like to clarify as to how does a revised assessment go from 919,000 to 112,000, which is almost 800,000 less than what the original debt was.
All right. There was the revised assessment could result as a result of the assessment, and there are a number of factors that could be because of that, and internally there are a lot of internal procedures, and this was as a result of a court judgment.
Okay, so I would like to clarify again. Do all revisions happen in such a way that almost 90% of the debt is revised? How does 90% of a debt get revised if your assessment was correct in the first place? You do understand what the problem is now. Commissioner, you do understand what the problem is. Your original assessment was 919,000. Correct, right? As stated in the report. But you then revised your assessment to 112,000. So how do we go from 919,000 to 112,000 in the space of two assessments? Commissioner.
Sorry, these cases are like from 2014 or so, and so these are cases that, there were 4 cases in question here. So there wasn't just one case that was in question. So with the judgment, so this went through a court proceeding, and that is how they came to the amount that was owing was 750,000. And thereafter, the compromise agreement was provided, and the 500 of the debt was paid, and 250 that is outstanding, we are following up on the compromise agreement. Since it was a judgment, we've also gone to the Auditor General back. And also, as per the Asikuda system, once we look at the actual amounts, they were 190,000 and 728,000. Ms. Blakemore will explain those from the system.
Yes, but I don't understand, but you still haven't answered the question. The question was, if you read the Auditor General's report, please look at the report. Okay, outstanding debts and the other 2 cases, the unpaid amount, all the 2 cases, we're talking about 2 cases, not 4, not 5, 2 cases. The unpaid amount totaling 919,426, so it could be for 2 taxpayers or the same taxpayer but 2 cases, right? Let's assume that we're talking about 2 different taxpayers for the purpose of understanding the process. All right, now you've got 2 cases where you go from 919,000 in total to 112,000, okay? And a revised assessment. To a revised assessment, the consignee agreed to settle the amount now. To a revised assessment now. If a consignee agreed to settle the amount and it's from 2014, it's quite difficult for this committee to accept that you're talking about a debt from 2014, unless you're not talking about a debt from 2014, and there's a mix-up between the debt from 2014 and the debt that we're supposed to be referring to. So kindly clarify, because the total cases pertain to a court ruling, so the court ruling does not relate to the 919,000. So can SRC please cross-check the information from the Auditor General's report and do give me the response in relation to the questions that I have asked. Thank you.
Okay. The 2 cases that we are referring to is in regards to one importer. This was the reduction was due to the glitches in the system itself. The importer imported bundle.
Thank you, Mrs. Blakemore. Now, this is different from the answer which you have given me. You stated that this is in relation to a court ruling. She is saying in relation to glitches in your system.
Chair, excuse me, because I believe that the way that the questions is being questions, because this questions is further.
No, Ms. Blakemore, you've done nothing wrong. You've answered properly. You've answered correctly. My problem is that SRC is not giving me responses in relation to the questions that are being asked, and you're taking me through procedures which I do not agree is the purpose of this query. The information that you have is the same information that I have. The questions that I've already sent to you. Now, the question is, how does a debt of 919 go 212,000? Can somebody answer the question, please? Thank you.
Yes, Chair. Like I was trying to explain, it was a glitch.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore, please.
It was a glitch in the system. The importer in questions has already paid the taxes. However, given that we are talking about an inventory system where stocks coming in and getting out of the system. However, when they remove the stocks out of the system at that time didn't pick out the stock. The stock remains in the system despite that the taxpayer has paid the taxes. Therefore, an audit was conducted after we have the external auditors, and it was revealed that, that's why it has been reduced, that given that the system has not collected the total taxes, the total stock that has been removed, the assessment that was raised after that amounting to 920 was wrong. So we canceled the assessment and we amend the assessment to 112, which relates to the outstanding taxes that the importer really owe SRC. And to be noted already, the importer has already effected payment and they have already settled the outstanding of 112,000.
Thank you, Mrs. Blakemore. I think I understand your passion and of course your dedication to try and clarify this issue. But before we proceed any further, I am aware that Mr. Morel is not here with you, and given the loss of his father, we all knew his father very well, so I would like to express our sincere condolences and sympathy towards the family there in our prayers. And I'm very sure members would, on their own, want to express that, and we would like to express our sincere condolences to the team of SRC. I believe you're like a family and you all work together, and therefore this is a great loss for you. And this morning I am here pushing you to answer some very strong questions. I know you've just suffered a loss. However, these questions have to be asked and they have to be clarified. So our thoughts go with Mr. Moel, but if we return to the question at hand, Commissioner, before I give Honorable Gill the floor, I've been given two answers to one question. Have I been given the right answer to the first question I asked now? Because that calls into question the legitimacy of the answers which you're providing to us. You do understand where I'm coming from, panel? So, Honorable Gill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we have been informed now that Akuda system, Asikuda, there has been a glitch in the system, then it begs the question of the credibility of the information in the system. Has there been other assessment been done to other taxpayers to ensure that they are being charged or assessed the right amount for them to pay? Thank you.
Okay, before you proceed to answer Honorable Gill's question, given that we are definitely going to take longer than 1 hour with SRC, I would like the committee to inform the Department of Agriculture that their hearing will not start at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Commissioner, please.
I will ask Ms. Blakemore to explain about the system changes, but maybe also to just indicate to the committee that we are going to be doing an upgrade to the Asikuda system, which will allow us to include all of the guarantees for bonded warehouse goods to be included in the system in future.
Yes, but the question was, has there been other glitches that would impact other assessments?
Yes.
Please,
so
thank you.
she will explain that.
Mrs.
Currently, there is a database cleanup being done, so our staff is really going into the system for Bondudwe House to ensure that whatever information that it is in the system is correct. So any abnormalities that have been observed, we are in liaising with the importer themselves to inform them if they need to raise the data to remove the stock that was not picked up in 2014. But in 2024, we had an exercise also with our IT expert that is working with the system. They have already fixed the system that it does not happen again. So for guarantee, since 2024, we are not receiving those type of glitches. But in the meantime, what we are doing from 2013, we have a dedicated team that is working to clean up the data to ensure that we don't face the same issue that we had faced in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Labos, you had indicated you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I have a simple question after listening to Ms. Denny's presentation regarding answering the question from Mr. Chair. If I'm heard you well, you have some procedures as well at SRC when you are taking decision. As we speak today, do you have any revision regarding these procedures, or it's still the same, or there are some business who get some orders? Please verify this. Thank you.
Is the question clear?
Yes, the question is clear, and I'd like to give you comfort that there's no importer or trader that gets preferred treatment, but I will ask Ms. Blakemore to explain as she has previously.
Mrs. Blakemore.
The system is being configured according to risks, okay? So there's no way that we will go into the system to say, okay, this one will not go. So it's different type of risk that is inserted into the system. However, there's different lane that the system selected a declaration. It can goes into green, blue, red, yellow. When it goes to green and blue, this is where it's after the goods has released at customs that the consignment, the PCA, will select some of the cases to make sure that the system is working effectively. So like we mentioned earlier, this is where we mentioned the green bills, because the green bills, at the time of the audit, the goods was just released. So when they did pick this bill, so then it was that time that we conducted the investigation to ensure that the information that has been put in the system is correct. So if we were going to do verification entirely prior to release of the goods, then definitely there will be a big bottleneck prior to release, and this will definitely affect the social life of our community, because there will be demurrage, which will increase the cost of goods on the market. Thank you.
This is the problem that we're trying to this is part of the problem that we have now. See, because we have a question in relation to the veracity, to the accuracy of the information which you have, where you have mentioned that you have a glitch in the system, that where a glitch of 800,000 rupees, that's quite a considerable sum of money. Now, it could be even more, because audit only took a sample. When it does, it only takes a sample. It doesn't take. So if we're talking about 800,000, and we're quoting revenue that is, and you have a tax bill, which I'm going to ask you about, then it skews the whole process before you answer. And now, the problem which you've raised, and this is where I'm concerned, given that you have these internal glitches, which is not the problem of the importer, who needs to get his or her goods onto the market, and should not be paying additional demurrage, additional fees, incurring issues with its own creditors. And so the whole process now, which means that the cost of living will go up, because that importer, particular importer, cannot sell his or her goods at the price which he had intended to. So failing that, you then have to lax your process and allow importers through. So the question is, where is the problem exactly? Because Honorable Gill asked a question which has not been answered. Are all importers being treated in the same way? Or are additional glitches in your system making assessments on individuals, whereby these assessments have people paid more money than they should? Because this is only, my problem is this is only a sample. It's not the total picture. Who would like to answer the question, please?
So let me go first. I think that what we indicated is that the glitch that was found was for the bonded warehouse goods, and that was for 2014. However, remember, when goods go into a bonded warehouse, it goes into a bonded warehouse, and then when it is removed from the bonded warehouse, an entry is passed, and then duty is brought to account.
I do understand your point, but your point is not that. The glitch could be for bonded warehouse. What we're saying is that could there be a glitch in your system? Because your system, even though it's a bonded warehouse, it's 800,000 rupees, of which I'm concerned, was not properly assessed. What you said was that the tax had been paid. Basically, that person had paid. That particular taxpayer had already paid that money.
So the glitch, and that is what Ms. Blakemore explained, that we have been looking at the data from 2014 to 2024. There is no glitch in the current system. This glitch was there in 2014, and therefore we are doing the data cleanup. But maybe Ms. Blakemore can explain.
But if the glitch was there in 2014 and this anomaly was flagged in 2023 for the audit?
Yes, so...
So the glitch was still there last year?
When the Auditor General
No,
came,
was the glitch still there last year?
for 2014 entry, when they looked at the entry.
So this is from a 2014 entry only?
Yes. So all of those entries that have been identified are prior to, I think they're 2014, 2015, 2017, yeah, 2021. So those were the entries that were identified.
When you came in when we did the report in 2021, there was no glitch.
So we have now are doing the data cleanup, and we are doing the upgrade as well.
Because when we came in 2022, this bill was not picked up by the Auditors General. So they did some sample, and they took it for 2021. So when they took it, this was on the 2023 audit.
I agree with you, Mrs. Blakemore, but why did you not internally, you have an internal audit, right? Why did your internal audit not also do what the Auditor General is doing now? Why wait for the external editor to pick it up? Why don't you yourself have a consistent internal audit process to check this? And your internal audit process would have provided you information both in relation to the disparity that we had earlier and in relation to this one.
It is to be noted that we did identify that there were issues with the reporting. So this is where the management look for an upgrade in the bonded warehouse module to ensure that the bonded warehouse report is working effectively. So in 2022, so we started with the upgrade of the bonded warehouse. It started first with excise module. From excise module, then it comes to private bonded warehouse. So the system has been upgraded, which facilitated, because prior to that, there were no effective report in the system for us to do the reconciliation. So it was to do 1% manually, which at the end of the day, it does take a very, very long time to do it. So when we observe this, we approach the management, and they do their best for us to upgrade the system, which was then started to 2022. So this is the result now in 2024, that we have a full system that is working effectively.
Thank you, Mrs. Blakemore. We will have to come back to this, and we will write to you for clarification in regards to the two responses that you've given so far. But I must say, I must warn SRC to try and be precise in your information and be correct in relation to the cases which you provide us information. If one relates to a court case, one relates to a glitch in the system, just tell us what it is. Okay, so we will move on, and I thank Mr. Barak for answering in relation to the 250,000. But just to conclude on that, what is the status of the 250,000 as we speak today? Outstanding 250,000 at 7.2 on page 72 of the Auditor General's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. SRC is still pursuing the matter to recover the 250,000 rupees outstanding.
Outstanding.
Yes.
And when do you anticipate conclusion of the collection of the outstanding amount?
We hope before the end of this year we will be able to manage to collect it if everything goes well.
In the meantime, the particular supplier, taxpayer, is that person being allowed to have a tax clearance certificate?
Not at the moment.
At the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Barak, for your precise response. We will go to paragraph 7.5, and there was an issue that was to be taken before the enforcement unit. In 2 cases, audit informed that the debts totaling 420,257 rupees have been referred to the enforcement unit to pursue the debt. Okay, in 2 cases, with outstanding debts of 675,680. Audit was informed that discussion on the way to determine whether the consignees are eligible for exemption of taxes of the items imported. Again, we come to a reassessment, basically, if we're talking about exemption of taxes, taxes import. Okay. Now, your response, I would like you to read your response before I ask the question, please.
Thank you. The 2 cases that we identified to send to the enforcement for action, after going through it again, after the response to the Auditor General, we found that SRC we would rather do an investigation into the 2 cases. And on both cases, we have now got actions in terms of what we will be doing in terms of the debt recovery. So on both cases, we will be able to pursue the debt recovery. Do you want the details on the cases?
Yes, I would like some details of the cases.
Mr. Barak will provide you.
Mr. Barak, as far as possible, we protect the taxpayer, as you understand. It is not our purview to mention or identify any taxpayer. Our concern is in relation to the outstanding debt which is owed to the government of Seychelles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. In the first case, we've had a long discussion with the person that imported the goods, and the goods was donated to an entity, and we've approached that entity, and that entity has accepted the fact that they've received the goods and they are prepared to make payment for it. However, this hasn't materialized to date, but the negotiation is ongoing for the money to be collected.
Is it a government entity?
I cannot confirm or deny.
Thank you.
In the second case, the importer is not in the country, but we've been in touch with the importer, and we've explained the situation to the importer, and as soon as the importer gets back to the country, we will continue to pursue the matter. And we are optimistic that we will be able to recover the money.
So the taxpayer is out of the country?
Yes, currently, yes.
And what is the guarantee that you have that the taxpayer will return to the country to settle the debt? Okay, Mr. Barak. All right. So basically now what we have is you have actions that you've taken internally to deal with the debts. Now, these actions have to be provided to the Auditor General so that the Auditor General can follow this up in regards to the status of actions taken in regards to audit matters reported previously, which comes at the table at the end of your audit. As you're aware, the SRC audit is one which is very important, and the processes which you have is one which is extremely important in terms of revenue collection for the country and the targets which the country sets financially. So therefore, that information will be provided to the Auditor General. Now, the committee would, however, like to have the actions that you've taken so far without identification of the taxpayer, as is the protection provided to taxpayers under the law, or because then we'll be acting ultra vires. Though this committee has the same power as the Assembly, and therefore members have immunity for questions which they ask here, we are, however, compelled to comply to a code of conduct, and therefore will not pursue the question in relation to any individual taxpayer. However, we expect SRC to be forthcoming with information, given that we have extended you this leeway this morning. Thank you, Mr. Barak. We're approaching 10 o'clock. So we have an outcome on the 2 debts, so we are going towards recovering the debts, and we are optimistic that the debts will be recovered. That's what the committee should be satisfied that you recover the debt now. Kindly provide any status update into the debts at all times that the debts are being settled by the particular taxpayers or the entity which you have mentioned in question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We will ensure that you are updated accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Barak.
Thank you.
So now we turn to paragraph 8 to 11, and we're talking about payments and amendments to outstanding bills. And once again, I would like, before I ask the question, for SRC to look into the conclusions of the report. Read the report first before you answer the question, please. So the Commissioner, you would look at paragraph 8, which is payments, amendments to outstanding bills, and your response, which was given. Commission noted the audit recommendation and highlighted that the internal IT unit is currently undertaking internal activities, including data cleanup, to ensure warehousing data in the system is correct. So, what is the status of ensuring that warehousing data is correct?
Okay. This is in terms of the payments for the amendments on the outstanding bills. I will ask Ms. Blakemore to respond to that. Thank you.
Mrs. Blakemore.
This was in refers to two cases. The first case, it remains outstanding. The Commission has engaged with the respective entity.
I reiterate, paragraph 8. Audit identified 10 bills in total where payments had either been made fully or partially, outstanding debts revised, and goods transferred to the government warehouse and disposed. But the original debts amounting to over 2 million remained unchanged in Asikuda. 9. Audit, therefore, is of the view that unpaid bills balances are overstated in Asikuda, which may lead to inaccurate information on the unpaid bill, which can further lead to incorrect financial analysis or decision-making. Question raised by Honorable Gill and not properly answered by SRC earlier, as I had indicated. 10. Audit recommended that the Commission should have a mechanism in place to enable it to generate an accurate status of the unpaid bills at any point in time. And 11. In response, the Commission noted, I quote, the audit recommendation and highlighted that the internal IT unit is currently undertaking internal activities, including data cleanup, to ensure warehousing data in the system is correct. Before even asking the question, I asked you, read the report, look at the report. I gave you the chance to look at the report, and still you come back to me with discrepancies in your answers. So please, the report is in front of you. The questions are with you. Kindly refer to the questions in the report and provide the responses that we need in relation to the question that is asked, which is 1, what is the status of the exercise to ensure accuracy of outstanding debts in the system? 2, what steps have the Commission taken to ensure that payments of outstanding debts are timely cleared in the system? So basically, we want to know what's happening with the 2 million. And Mrs. Blakemore, you had answered the question previously when you answered Honorable Gill's question. But in relation to this question, you need to clarify what is happening exactly so that we're sure that the assessment which is being made is correct, because of the statement that the goods were transferred to a government warehouse and disposed. So therefore, the government becomes vicariously responsible within the process of disposing the goods. Thank you very much. Commissioner, the question, please answer it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. The SRC is addressing the matter, and as we did indicate earlier, that we have, from an IT perspective, taken corrective measures to address the anomalies identified in the system. And this involves the review to ensure that the information is accurate and up to date. Regarding the actual goods, then the exercise is ongoing, as we had also indicated earlier. And on this particular entry, this has been sorted out. And we also want to indicate that we have, where there is others that we have identified, as part of the cleanup, we will look at making sure if there's others that are identified, we will ensure that the same, that the relevant steps are taken to bring the duties to account where appropriate, and that the acquittal against the entries and the outstanding debts in the Assakuda system will be done to ensure that there is accuracy on the system as well.
On that note, we will come back to your response. We will take a pause of 15 minutes and then we'll return and we will continue with the SRC hearing. During that time, I would like SRC to reflect on the answer which it has given in preparation and anticipation of follow-up questions from the members. The first follow-up question will be from Honorable Gill, and any other member who has indicated that they will ask a question will let me know during the pause. So we'll take a break now and then continue with the hearing in 15 minutes. Take a brief pause. Thank you.